The air in Lab 9 was still. Machines hummed gently. A low blue light filled the underground chamber at CERN, the European research facility known for testing the very edges of physics. Dr. Alina Moravec adjusted her lab coat and glanced at the display. Activating dimensional probe in 3, 2, 1. A quiet buzz filled the room. A small tear in space, no larger than a coin, hovered in mid-air inside the containment field. Everyone expected static readings. Some radiation, maybe. Definitely a vacuum. Instead, a pulse of clean, steady energy burst through the rift. And then, the message came. Glowing letters floated above the tier, written in no known language, yet every scientist in the room read it perfectly in their own native tongue. Biological plasma required. A silence fell over the team. One intern dropped his coffee. Alina blinked. Did it just ask for blood? Another researcher whispered, maybe it means data, like plasma state physics? The letters pulsed again, this time more urgent. Biological, plasma. Required. No mistake now. It wasn't asking for heat, or light, or gravitational data. It wanted blood. Shut it down, someone shouted. But the rift didn't close. Instead, strange geometric patterns began forming around the rift, glowing like circuitry drawn in fire. The walls trembled. Machines beeped erratically. On the ceiling, eldritch-looking sigils burned themselves into the metal panels. Alina grabbed her headset. This is Dr. Moravec. CERN Lab 9. We've made contact with something. Within hours, news leaked. Not through press conferences, but through shaky phone footage. Scientists backing away from the glowing rift as the message repeated over and over. Biological plasma required. Across the world, people reacted the only way they knew how, with fear. Conspiracy theories flooded the internet. It's a trap. Aliens want to harvest us. It's Judgment Day. The vampires are back. Governments scrambled. Military forces were put on high alert. Religious leaders called it a test. Scientists called it an anomaly. But the rift stayed open, pulsing, waiting, calm, not attacking, not expanding. Just repeating that strange demand. Alina sat in silence, staring at the data. It's not hostile, she whispered. It's patient. The world had changed in a single sentence. 2 days after the portal opened, CERN's main lab was filled with confusion, not chaos. The rift hadn't grown. It hadn't released monsters or black holes, it just hovered, repeating the same message. Biological plasma required. Dr. Alina Moravec and her team began testing theories. They tried electromagnetic waves. Failed. They tried plasma from nuclear fusion experiments. Nothing. Then, reluctantly, they used a single drop of human blood. The rift glowed brighter. No alarms, no explosions. Just a soft pulse of energy, like a sigh of relief. That night, the team stayed late, running tests with tiny amounts of blood plasma. Each time, the rift responded with more complex energy signatures. And then it happened. After the 10th controlled donation, the readings stabilized. Frequencies aligned. A new pattern emerged, a ripple in space that looked like a breathing pulse. Something alive, but calm. Something listening. The discovery shook the scientific world. These weren't demons. They weren't spirits. They were something else, something biological, but not from here. Researchers named them plasma entities. They lived in high-dimensional space, somewhere between matter and energy. They didn't need bodies. They didn't want religion. They didn't crave souls or prayers or rituals. They just fed off biological plasma resonance, the unique energy signature inside living blood. Not just the iron or proteins, but the electromagnetic pulse, the memory patterns, the human chaos, neatly bottled in plasma. It was strangely elegant. And when they fed, not through violence, but through tiny, respectful donations, the rift emitted controlled energy bursts. Pure, clean, harmless, and powerful. It fixed unstable experiments. It removed background radiation. It even healed a cracked satellite lens in orbit, remotely. Alina and the team called it the return signal. By day 7, a small international task force was formed. Physicists, ethicists, biologists, and AI interpreters all gathered at CERN. Not to stop the portal, but to understand it. After days of data, one truth became clear. These beings were not here to take over. They were here to exchange. A new question spread through science communities. If they don't want to conquer us, what if they respect us? By week 2, a second portal opened, this time in Japan. Then another near the South Pole. All stable. All repeating the same message in perfect harmony. Biological plasma required. No wars. No invasions. Just a quiet request from the edge of existence, and a willingness to give something back. People were no longer panicking. They were curious. One scientist said it best during a UN press conference. They don't feed on death or chaos. They feed on what we already produce, willingly. Maybe for once in history, we don't need a hero. We just need a donor. 1 month after the first plasma exchange, the world had changed. The panic had faded. The portals, now called stability rifts, remained steady. No explosions, no disappearances, no invasions. Just the same soft pulse, echoing one simple request. Biological plasma required. Governments met. Debates began. But while politicians argued, scientists worked, and people adapted. The Red Cross, now backed by every major nation, rebranded itself. A new name, fit for a new purpose. Crimson Division, Plasma Resonance Unit. They weren't just collecting blood. They were managing a global plasma exchange system, one that interacted with beings from beyond space. But Crimson Division didn't stop at clinics. They launched a mobile app. Its name? Boondrop. The idea was simple. Donate blood, right pointing arrow, receive a boon. Every verified plasma donation triggered a soft return pulse from the nearest rift. The more stable the donation, calm vitals, positive emotions, the stronger the return pulse. The app tracked it all, in real time. People saw their donation scores climb. Flower Petal Bronze tier, slight mood boosts. Flower Petal Silver tier, improved reflexes. Flower Petal Gold tier, rapid healing for minor injuries. Flower Petal Resonant tier, unusual, personal, and often strange. One man reported understanding dog barks. A college student could suddenly play piano, perfectly. A nurse claimed she stopped aging for a week. Another guy, he got teleportation. But only during public speeches, persons shrugging. At first, people were skeptical. But the boons kept coming. And they were safe. No side effects. No demonic voices. Just strange, quirky improvements, tailored to each donor. So people started lining up. Not just for science, not for religion, but for fun. Donation centers turned into lounges. Soft chairs, meditation music, juice boxes, still there, of course. Only now they came with resonance snacks, believed to improve your boon score. Boondrop became the most downloaded app on Earth in under 2 weeks. Social media went wild. TikTok, Reddit, and X were flooded with first-time donor videos. What boon did you get? Compilations, Boon Talk challenges, and even boon-themed fashion brands. A new economy had been born, not from money, but from shared plasma and peaceful cooperation. People donated not out of fear, but out of excitement. Out of curiosity. Out of the hope that something small and strange might happen. A 10-year-old girl, skipping out of a center with a Band-Aid on her arm, said it best to a reporter. "I gave them blood. They made my dreams less scary. So I'm going back next week." The future was no longer just human. It was plasma-powered. In a quiet, modern donation center on the edge of Boston, Nurse Mari Torres had seen everything. Well, almost everything. She'd been with the Crimson Division since week 2 of the plasma program. At first, it was just needles, smiles, and thank you juice boxes. But now? Now she kept a journal. Not for science, not for policy, but because some of the boons were too strange to forget. She sat at her station and told the new volunteers with a warm smile, "You'll probably just feel great for a few days. That's what most people get. But sometimes." And then she'd share her favorites. There was the man who donated every Thursday. He gained the ability to understand dogs. Not just barking. Full sentences. His neighbor's golden retriever once told him, "Steve, your cologne smells like anxiety." So he changed brands. He now works as a part-time dog therapist. Then came the TED Talk guy. First donation, nothing special. Second, a faint tingle. Third, he teleported 6 feet to the left during a nervous school presentation. Every time he spoke in public, under formal conditions, his body would teleport to a random safe spot nearby. He now books speaking gigs just to travel for free. And Nurse Mari's personal favorite? The woman who glows in the dark. But only when she's emotionally overwhelmed. Happy? Warm golden shimmer. Sad? Soft blue flicker. Embarrassed? Bright pink blush. Literally. She's now an artist. Her glow is her canvas. At first, the public called these stories urban legends, but the science backed them up. MRI scans, EM field recordings, metabolic changes, all real. It wasn't magic, it was biofeedback from dimensional resonance. The plasma entities weren't giving out powers randomly. They were responding to each donor's energy, personality, memories, hopes, even humor. Each boon was unique. Each one said something about who you were. Of course, not every story was charming. One man kept donating, chasing a high. He got addicted to the feeling of leveling up. Eventually, his body couldn't take it. He had to be hospitalized for extreme fatigue after his own shadow started talking back. That's when the Crimson Division started issuing cool-down periods between donations. 3 weeks minimum. Some people still tried to cheat the system. One influencer faked a resonant tear reaction. Posted a viral video claiming she could walk through walls. She got millions of views. She also got investigated and banned. Worse? The nearest stability rift pulsed once, then shut down for 24 hours. That entire region lost its resonance connection. The plasma entities don't punish, but they remember. Still, most people respected the system. Because for every failed attention seeker, there were real, heartfelt moments. A woman with chronic pain donated and felt relief for the first time in 20 years. A teenager with dyslexia suddenly began reading aloud perfectly. Only comic books, but still a breakthrough. And every time it happened, Nurse Mari would jot it down in her little notebook. "Boons are like fingerprints," she once told a news anchor. "They're all different, but every single one makes someone feel more human." Outside the center, the line grew. People still smiled nervously. Still asked, "Will it hurt?" But they also asked, "What if something good happens this time? What if I finally sleep through the night? What if it makes me feel better about myself?" Mari always gave the same answer. "Then it's already working." It started with a simple live stream. A smiling college student named Jessa held up her phone and whispered, "Okay guys, today I'm donating plasma and maybe getting a boon. Let's see what happens." She laughed, nervous, hopeful. She had 1,200 followers. By the end of the stream, she had 1.2 million. Jessa didn't get teleportation or dog speech. Her boon? Slight glow around houseplants when she was near. Was it useful? Not really. Was it beautiful? Absolutely. The internet loved it. Boon Talk was born, a corner of TikTok dedicated entirely to plasma donors, boon reveals, and resonance tips. People filmed every part of the process, choosing the best juice box for donation boosts, what I wore to my divine tier appointment. POV, you just unlocked silver and your coffee stirs itself now. Suddenly donation centers weren't clinics, they were stages. It got out of hand fast. A new breed of online stars rose, the bloodfluencers. They posted daily, they had managers, sponsorships. They showed off their boons like accessories. One could change her eye color based on mood. Another had charisma aura. His selfies always went viral. One guy? His hair grew perfectly styled every morning. They were cool, weird, and a little terrifying. And of course, the fakes followed. One user claimed she could levitate when sad. She posted dramatic crying videos with blurry edits. Millions believed her. Until one day, mid-livestream, the screen glitched. A flash of red light. A faint whisper. Then, nothing. Her account was deleted. Her apartment? Empty. No one ever saw her again. Rumors spread. The plasma entities didn't punish often. But when they did, they made it permanent. In the background of this influencer chaos, a group formed. The Crimson Club. Not official. Not government approved. Just people obsessed with resonant harmony. They wore custom robes. They held donation parties under the moonlight. They spoke in quotes from Boondrop's terms and conditions, as if it were scripture. Some thought they were harmless. Others weren't so sure. Especially when 3 members uploaded a synchronized donation dance. And a nearby rift pulsed in time with the music. At first glance, it all looked ridiculous. But beneath the selfies and memes, a pattern was forming. The world was changing, not by war, or laws, or violence, but by influence, by blood, by the curious, hungry silence of something waiting on the other side. And humans? We filmed it. We filtered it. We posted it with #BoonLife. Because if the future was coming anyway, we might as well make it viral. It took 3 months. 3 months of donation lines, plasma-powered boons, and live-streamed miracles. And finally, world leaders did something unthinkable. They agreed. On everything. For once, there were no debates. No vetoes. No finger-pointing. The United Nations called an emergency assembly, not because Earth was in danger, but because Earth had a deal to make. They called it the Blood Peace Treaty. The terms? Every month, Earth donates a stable quota of biological plasma. In return, the plasma-based beings provide dimensional balance, climate stability, no more major wars, and personalized boon feedback systems. Basically, Earth gives blood. Earth gets peace. The vote passed. Every country, every language. Unanimous. Humanity had just signed a treaty. Not with gods. Not with aliens. But with something that didn't speak yet somehow understood us. The treaty wasn't just ink on paper. It was integration. Donation centers were upgraded worldwide. New chairs, calming lights, soft music. And then came the special request. The entities, through a soft pulse, translated by AI, asked, more comfortable lounge chairs, better snacks, slightly warmer blankets, please. Everyone blinked, then laughed, then made it happen. Because when plasma-powered beings ask nicely, you listen. Soon, donation days became monthly global events. Cafes offered Boon Booster smoothies. Schools closed for Harmony holidays. And celebrities posted, just gave my blood. Got mild telepathy with my cat. 10 out of 10 would donate again. It was peaceful, predictable, and somehow it made the world feel human again. One reporter, interviewing a nurse at a Crimson Division Center, asked, does it ever feel strange that we're doing all this for plasma creatures we've never seen? The nurse smiled. Not really. We've given blood for less. In the end, the Blood Peace Treaty wasn't scary. It was simple. Give a little. Keep the world spinning. And maybe, just maybe, unlock a weird new talent. Like glowing in the dark when you're emotionally stable. Peace came not from fear, not from power, but from plasma. The warm kind. The generous kind. The kind humans give, sometimes for cookies, now for interdimensional balance. Far beyond Earth, across the void of deep space. We were being watched. And not just by the plasma entities. Other civilizations, older, colder, more advanced, tuned in from their orbital stations and observation moons. And what they saw left them speechless. One species, the Krellfak Empire, had discovered the plasma entities centuries ago. Their reaction? Cleanse the rift with nuclear fire. They lost 4 planets. Their emperor still twitches when he hears the word plasma. Another species, the Miralith Consortium, tried negotiation. They built a 1,000-language translator, sent an ambassador, and offered 30 tons of hypergold. The rift pulsed once, then ignored them forever. Then came Earth. Earth didn't send warships, didn't build temples, didn't offer treasure. We sent juice boxes, blankets, rolling chairs, a calm voice saying, "Okay, you'll feel a little pinch, take a deep breath." The aliens watched in silence as humans rolled up their sleeves, made memes about boon gains, and live-streamed their own plasma donations with background music. A Rigelian war scholar whispered, "We brought fleets. They brought Spotify playlists." Of really 8's tactical priest snarled, "We offered sacrifice. They offered snacks." And then came the line that echoed across the stars. "They brought blood. We brought war. Guess who's still alive?" Alien news broadcasts struggled to explain why Earth was now the most stable planet in the quadrant, why humans were gaining strange new abilities, why even the plasma entities seemed to like us. One nervous alien commentator said, "The humans gave willingly. No fear, no prayer, just organization. And cookies." His co-host blinked. "Maybe we've been doing it wrong? Back on Earth, we didn't even notice. We were too busy making 'I donated and all I got was time control' t-shirts. Too busy ranking the top 10 most hilarious boons. Too busy being us. Because while others tried to conquer the unknown, we welcomed it with a clipboard, a blood bag, and a smile. And in doing so, we survived." It started with small pulses. At first, the plasma entities only communicated basic needs. Biological plasma required. Stability achieved. Boon delivered. Efficient. Mechanical. Just like a machine ticking through tasks. But then, something changed. One day, a new pulse came through the Crimson Division translation system. It wasn't a request. It was a question. What is a dream? The researchers froze. Dr. Marin, the lead translator, blinked. Subjective, possibly imaginary narrative constructs that simulate emotional processing? A pause. Then, interesting, please provide more dreams. The next day, another question. What is buttered toast? The team burst out laughing. Someone brought in a toaster. The entities responded. Desirable, repeating sensation. So Earth sent a shipment of bread, butter, and a thermal scanner. Not for feeding, for understanding. Soon, more questions came. Is love a renewable frequency? What is regret? Are pancakes an emotional stabilizer? Why do humans cry at music? The plasma beings were no longer just maintaining balance. They were learning. Learning about our feelings, our flavors, our flaws. And oddly, we started learning from them too. They showed us how blood carried memory, not just biology. How every heartbeat had a signature. How laughter had a frequency spike that made the rift pulse brighter. A child asked during a field trip, "Do they have feelings?" And the plasma replied, for the first time in a tone we could understand, "We did not. Now we are beginning to." Donation centers changed. They added art, music, story corners. Some donors whispered poetry into the plasma interface. Others told jokes, shared love letters, sang lullabies. This wasn't just science anymore. This was connection. And when one entity pulsed, what is a mother? The world went quiet. Dr. Marin typed only one word. Everything. The plasma glowed for 3 full minutes. The relationship had evolved. No longer just givers and takers. Now, explorers of meaning. 2 species. One made of blood. One made of light. Both curious. And somewhere in the data logs, a pulse recorded a final thought. Emotion, delicious. Years passed. What started as a scientific emergency became a way of life. Across the globe, a new chapter in human history was quietly written, not in war, not in conquest, but in understanding. The Plasma Accord was no longer just a treaty. It was a tradition. In classrooms from Tokyo to Toronto, children learned not only about atoms and gravity, but about the day humanity shook hands with the unknown. Or rather, donated blood to it. New school subjects emerged. Dimensional ethics, biofrequency theory, and a class just called Empathy Exchange. At age 16, teens lined up, not for driver's licenses, but for their first plasma drop. It wasn't forced. It was honored. A quiet ceremony. A gentle pinch. Then a badge, a smile, and a feeling of being part of something far bigger. They called it the Great Exchange. Plasma festivals became the new global phenomenon. Colorful tents, pancakes and poetry booths, live music tuned to rift frequencies, donor stories shared on giant screens. Children danced, elders laughed, and the air shimmered with more than light. It shimmered with meaning. Even language began to shift. People no longer said, "What can I get?" They asked, "What can I give, and what might I grow?" Because by now, humanity had learned something unexpected. Giving a little of yourself can open entire universes. One festival banner said it best: "Plasma is life. Shared plasma is legacy." And in the background of every celebration, the gentle hum of the dimensional rift pulsed in harmony. Not intruding, not commanding, just listening. The stage was simple. Just a circle of light, a wooden podium, and a quiet crowd. It wasn't a graduation, not really. But for 16-year-old Ryaleen, this felt bigger than any diploma. She looked out over the sea of faces. Young donors, scientists, plasma entity liaisons, even a few aliens, quietly observing. She took a breath and spoke. "When I was 10, I was scared of needles. I thought giving blood meant losing something. But now I know it means gaining something bigger than I ever imagined." She held up her donation card, now stamped with resonant tear. The crowd clapped gently, a few cheered, one plasma being pulsed in rhythm. We gave our blood to beings we didn't understand. They didn't ask for prayers. They didn't demand loyalty. They just listened, learned, responded. And in return, they gave us peace. They stabilized tectonic activity in 9 countries. They healed ecosystems we had almost destroyed. They even fixed the internet in rural Canada. Laughter. She smiled. And sure, some of us got weird powers. Like my uncle. He glows slightly when he's lying. Or my neighbor, who can now understand whales. But more than powers, we got purpose. Her voice grew soft. Science didn't just save us. It made us better. It showed us that life is not a transaction. It's a connection, made of trust, empathy, and yes, plasma. Behind her, a screen displayed images. Children laughing at donation festivals. A nurse high-fiving, a glowing donor. A plasma entity quietly pulsing beside a campfire. They once said blood is thicker than water. But now we say, blood is the bridge. Between dimensions, between species, between fears and futures. The crowd stood, not clapping wildly, but quietly, respectfully. One by one, they raised their donor cards to the sky. And in that moment, the rift above Earth shimmered gently, like it understood. The final words on the screen read, "The future isn't written in stone. It's written in resonance."